101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the poetry book, Poetry Vent, no other than Mr. Alex Murdock.
Greetings. Great to be
Welcome.
here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Alex, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yes, my name is Alex Murdock. I'm a writer, poet, performer, podcaster myself, and but yes, I pride myself on being a writer. So normally that's what I call myself these days. Yeah, it's been that's what I do, and as you can see, that's my most recent book, by the way. I'm actually having something um, coming out this summer, but so far this is the most recent thing I've published. But yes, I'm a creator primarily, so but I'm an artist and writer, so I write stories as well. But my first ever was poetry, so it's very dear, near and dear to me, as they say.
Mr. Alex Murdoch, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world as well as your wisdom. Tell us, poetry event, what inspired you to write this poem?
Um, well, I suppose I could start with my stage name. Um, I've been My stage name is the Mad Poet. So after this is like my third poetry book. So after the second one, which I for me personally, that's where I thought that's me just sort of becoming a craftsman and just being mastery, showing mastery in what I do in putting poetry or words on page. And I sort of got to this space where I start to understand or see characteristics of who I've grown into as an artist. Specifically speaking about performance poetry as well as page and just my expression, my term of expression, the culture I've created for myself. So that's pretty much led to me just sort of just putting a bow tie on things and the work that I had to put out, which are in this which you can find in this book. Um, I sort of understood just reading the word, just understood what it was about, and it sort of just led me to this place where I thought to myself, man, this is a poetry event. It's an event, but it's also based on being honest. I suppose to sort of put it in layman terms, they have this saying where there's three people that tell the truth: is the drunk, angry people, and children. And I suppose I this book is I primarily pride myself on being a truth teller through my expression. One of my pet peeve is honesty when I write. So I sort of decided to go um, the anger type of way, and somewhat with a hint of madness. Hence the Mad Poet, which was something that was a thread, a DNA to the creativity that I've seen over the years, leading up to this point that I was there just contemplating all this situation about putting the book out, and how to sort of put it to the world and describe it and just break it down. And so yes, but not necessarily be angry, but more to the point where anger leads to truth, but more just the truth behind the anger sort of thing. So poetry event, that's pretty much what the idea behind poetry event is supposed to be, led by the mad poet, which somewhat alluded or illustrated by the idea of being a madman. And I also think that there's always a lot of truth in people that are somewhat seen to be deranged and estranged and somewhat ostracized from society, from just some of the things that they would say that maybe not necessarily fit in with society. And I think personally that's where this work fits in, and that's what led me to Alex Murdock, the Mad Poet, poetry event, Ramblings of a Madman, which is the subheading. So that's pretty much what the book sort of encapsulate the books in my mind, and hopefully people from understand um, my chain of thought, if nothing else, when they read it. But there's a lot of truth and honesty, and just the way I see the world that I put in this book. And it's been a pleasure just to share with people. And don't get me wrong, I do. It's been out for close to a year now, so I've seen the impact that it's had on people that have read it, and it's been it's humbling, it's humbling. So um, it has been fun, but yes, definitely a privilege.
Honesty is the best policy indeed. And Mr. Alex, were there specific emotions, events, or experiences that compelled you to channel them into poetry?
Yes, yes, I would say there were. I think there was a lot of my writing is of course based on my experiences, and which happens to be knowledge of self as well as knowledge of my surroundings. So it's a lot of things to do with whether you're talking religion, whether you're talking current events to do with the world that we live in, and some of the things that we see right now going on, um, to do with dynamics with relationships, heartbreak, or just like experiences that you've had in the past that have somewhat lingered or is antiquated, but is still something that is still somewhat significant to who you've grown to become. And I would have to say trauma definitely have to be in there, which is an anxiety, which are things that are so it's a commonality across the board when you think about the experience as a human being. These things, they come and go, but they don't ever just disappear. They're always part of the life we live. And so a lot of these things are some of the things that have driven my creativity. On top of that, there is a large um, motivation, inspiration from mental health. I would say that's one thing that I have um, paid attention to, and I've also had the experience of working in mental health. So it's definitely have fueled my work. And so when I speak about certain things, certain situations to do with chaos and madness, and that type of situation, yes, it is my term of expression, just the way my verbiage and the way I write. But at the same time, there is experience, there is inspiration that I've seen that to back up some of the things that I'm willing to somewhat put on paper or put in a book. So there's so many different things that inspire what I write, what I create. Um, because I also think it's very important to not only I mean, for me personally, I pride myself on not just speaking for myself. I think it's very important that you're able to speak for other people. I think that's one of the as a poet, you're supposed to ascend to such a level to be able to speak for anybody and also to relate to anybody. And a lot of things like that I've sort of learned along the way as you do the work. I would think anybody else would still feel that would still experience the same thing and learn along the way these important things when it comes to expression and the responsibility of an artist, a creator, and the ability to affect the the next generation or give back to the next generation. But the intent behind everything should always be positive. It should always be with good intentions. So, as much as certain situations that I unpack in books, etc., or on stage might somewhat be chaotic, I do try my best to make it somewhat of a positive experience in any light, sort of like, containing or controlling some of the madness that it alludes to the human experience that I might decide um, to integrate into my work, so to speak. It's all to do with positive intentions, basically.
Mr. Alex, how do you balance raw emotional expressions with poetic craft in these works?
For me, the first thing I always look to is discipline. I think it's very important to have discipline. Um, I would say it start with self. To have discipline in self, and because that's the only way to develop. Even if you mention empathy, all these different things that we somewhat understand about other people. I think we sort of have to understand those situations or whatever that is about ourselves first. And so I would say I look to discipline to sort of contain or bring balance to any situation that is somewhat manic, if you will, or a madness, or another term would be chaotic, to somewhat just water down the situation enough to where there is, yes, of course, you never eradicate the chaos, but there is somewhat balance to the situation, and perhaps at the time the person might not necessarily see or understand you know what it was or how to somewhat bring that balance that you're somewhat trying to feed into it, just looking from afar or being at the in depth in it at the time, being involved. But in time, this person, these people that listen to your work, they can somewhat find ideals, because at the end of the day there are no guarantees that what they're gonna totally get they're gonna totally, because everybody come from a different um their perception is different, their the interpretation is always individual, it's always somewhat unique, so there's no guarantee that people are gonna totally just get what you're saying and be like, this is exactly what I want you to do, or this is how you're gonna go about making yourself better. So there is only the ideals and hoping that people come to their conclusion, at least to the destination, to get to the destination. But even if it's in their own way and they develop their own ideals and tools, but even if it's just that push, it's just that burst, that that small little energy for them to somewhat to inspire them, to inspire them and give that passion. They have that, and if that alone that they get from my writing, I think that's worth it.
Indeed, it's worth it, people. And Mr. Alec, as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
Short-term goals. This book that we're currently speaking about is actually a trilogy. So this is the first, and I intend to put the second one out this summer. Not long now, but in July, early July, and I will have a book launch for it, like I did the first, and there will be the third one, and that will be volume three of Poetry Pen. So this one is Ramblings of a Madman. The next will be Chaotic Ramblings, which will be out this summer. So that's the short term goal. The long term goal is for me, I write stories as well, and currently I'm working on a novel to go mainstream. So I'm just trying to find um, an agent to sort of somebody a home basically, as we say in as writers, find a home for my creation. This novel that I've created, and I have other things in the works that I've written that are not ready yet, but I intend to have them delivered to the masses in the best capacity in the future. But at the moment, yes, I do have some short stories that I would like to share with people as well. Um, and other long-term goals are to do with my performance. I do plan to. My aim is to do festivals and start to perform at more larger events. Um, I do frequent open mics, and I had the privilege of doing a festival last year. So I just want to do more things of that nature to do with what I do as a spoken word poet and a performer. And I do have a few things in the works currently, and I'm excited for that as well. And last year I also had the chance to perform for a late great poet, a late great UK poet. But he's also a worldwide great poet, Benjamin Zafania, and this was at Brixton Library. We had a big event there, and it was quite packed with a lot of people, respectable guests, as well as his wife was there, and I believe his best friend, and quite a few people that have known him over the years, and just lots of crowd, people that want to cherish his memory. Um, so it was, I've had the privilege of that. So I suppose what I'm saying is I want to do replicate those experiences and to start to have or to keep having more experiences of that nature because for me personally, that's what I think it's about in terms of being a poet and sharing with people. Um, when I first started this thing, which is pretty much going on over over 5 years now, one of my first thing I thought to myself was to speak for other people that don't necessarily know how to or can't speak for themselves. Um, I think that's one of the things that you do when you come on stage. It's communal. People, if you do it right, people will reciprocate. They will understand. They will support your message. But again, as always, I try to come go with the best intentions because I think it's very important that your intent is righteous or you try to, put your best foot forward and let the stones fall as they may and go from there. But that's pretty much the immediate thoughts of what I have, short terms and long term plans so far.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Alex. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, Book 101 review in fifth season, Comedy 101 in second season, and Food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, Love Letters in third season, and My Baby podcast, Mental Health 101. Movie 101 review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. So please do listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Alex, what will be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to write their own book?
I would say, man, that's a great question. I would say learn the business more than anything. If you're going to ascend, you're going to aspire for anything. I think it starts with being as professional as you can, regardless of whether you want to go. There's two routes, as you know, the traditional route or the independent route. I think regardless of whichever route you decide to go, or even both, because I'm looking to do both. Um, and I've been doing independent for a while now, so I'm looking to go into traditional. But to answer your question, yes, I do believe you have to ascend to be a professional when you come into this space of the creatives and writers, because this business is very competitive. And
It's
to
18 hours.
pardon me, that's my laptop. But to and to so you always want to ascend to be in the heights, to make sure that you know what you cover yourself. You control what you can control, and what you can't, you don't worry. But what I think you can control is making sure that your work is of class, it's high level. Outside of that, I think always keep yourself informed, so your creativity doesn't have barriers. I think when you lack knowledge of even self, it can create barriers of ways, and you lack ways of unpacking certain expressions or certain situations that you might find yourself in, a quagmire, if you will, when you're writing. And if you don't necessarily take the time to know yourself and to 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 consume knowledge, I think to read as well. To read is as important as to write. So it's very important either way to do both. And outside of that is be be create as frequent as possible. I would have to say
Mr.
that's the best thing.
Alex.
Yes,
Yes. Mr. Alex, thank you so much for your advice. And can you please invite our listeners to support your book?
absolutely, absolutely. Yes, as you see on the screen, there is a poach event, and I actually have one right here, and it's all you can find it all on Amazon. I do have other publications on there as well, so there is quite a treat for people to read and to understand. And I also have my own site, so it's dien.uk. So if people ever want to reach out to me directly, they can, and they can find my work. So it's not hard to find me. Also, yes, of course, I do share quotes, not full blown pieces, but quotes of my work on my own podcast, which is my poet podcast. With your permission, sir, I do have a piece I could share with you from the book.
Oh, Mr. Alex, I have a next guest, so I just want to, I just want to limit into 20 to 24 minutes. So, can you come back
Oh,
and
not
let's
a
talk
problem,
about
not
your
a problem.
poetry, please? So, people, let's support
Absolutely.
Mr. Alex Murdock because if you support him, more and more and more poetry book to come, more poetry books to come. So, Mr.
Absolutely.
Alex, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely, man. It's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Modicon people, see you soon. I want to apologize.